fees, low rates by the federal government on their lands for basically forever. It's basically part of it's welfare program of the federal government. They pay much higher fees on private lands. And what the government is doing now is basically raising the fees to be somewhat in line with real costs for the rights of the grazing fees.
Well, who has determined the cost of the rights?
The cost has been determined artificially by the government, basically under the...
So who determines what the real cost is now? If the real cost is...
The market does out there, because they're private lands up for grazing fees, which substantially higher rates are charged.
So you don't think...
You're defending corporate welfare in a sense because... Or corporate's the wrong word. You're defending welfare, you're defending you're defending a program of subsidy is what you're defending.
No, I understand that. I understand what you're suggesting, and I'm
it's right. I'm not suggesting.
No. I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
You want to split hairs here. My point to you is that this is typical of the administration. They said they weren't going to do it after first suggesting it.
But they should have.
But now they're doing it. But in as is the usual case, rising costs in a down cycle in the economy, it may be the wrong time to do this. Is my only opinion, and the effect that it might have on the economy of the private sector may be deleterious. That's all I'm suggesting.
The Sign Source. John Cox of the Sign Source in Berkeley Junction has all kinds of signs.
Special events.
John Cox can make you a sign just for your own business.
A business sign.
And he also has open house signs, welcome home signs.
For sale.
Yes, and boy or girl signs, and there's a lot more. The Sign Source. How about a sign for an anniversary sale? Or special signs, any size for the inside or out of your business, custom made just for you. Call the Sign Source, 778-1717, or drop by the Sign Source, Berkeley Junction, Berkeley Boulevard, Goldsboro. The Sign Source.
For 10,000 years, we have improved our food crops through selective breeding. Now we can go one step further thanks to genetic engineering and other techniques of biotechnology. With greater speed and precision, we can make crop plants hardier and the foods they give us more nutritious and better tasting. Working with nature to produce better foods is one way biotechnology is improving our lives. To learn more, contact this station or the North Carolina Biotechnology Center.
WGBR, Goldsboro's very own. From ABC News, I'm Gary Nahn. President Clinton has just signed the budget bill raising taxes for some people.
Today we come here for more than a bill signing. We come here to begin a new direction for our nation.
A big ceremony on the south lawn of the White House.
We are taking steps necessary and long overdue to revive our economy, to renew our American dream, to restore confidence in our own ability to take charge of our own affairs.
The president mentioned the work and the controversy which preceded the approval votes on Capitol Hill.
The people in Congress who voted for this plan had to labor under historically difficult circumstances. They had to reverse a plan of trickle-down economics in which it was the accepted path always to say the right thing but never to do it.
Legislators who voted for the bill were invited to join the cabinet on the South Lawn for the ceremony. The judge in the Kimberly Mays case in Sarasota, Florida, is taking it under advisement. The attorney for the 14-year-old girl's biological parents told the judge the rights of the girl caught in a baby swap controversy are not the only issue in the civil trial over parental rights. The judge said he will rule Kimberly can in effect divorce her parents in a few days. The American Psychological Association Commission on Violence in Youth releases a report on youth violence. Chairman Leonard Aronson says the study finds aggression is primarily a learned behavior, which means it can be unlearned. Commission member Ronald Slavey points out that violence hits home to more people each year than the Vietnam War.
If you can face the wall without being moved by the names of the
59,000 Americans who were killed over a 13-year period. As tragic as that war was and continues to be, I was struck by the fact that at our current rate of violence in America, we can fill an entire new wall every 2 1/3 years. Another conclusion of the study: action must be taken early in a person's life to derail violent behavior. You're listening to ABC News.
I was the frozen food stock clerk at the local market. It was a pretty easy job until they lowered the price of Snickers and Milky Way ice cream bars. They're selling faster than ever.
Now, Snickers and Milky Way ice cream bars are an even better value. We've lowered the price on family six-packs, but kept the same high quality.
So I switched over to produce. But I'm a little worried. I hear they're talking about lowering the price of watermelons.
Look for the new lower price on Snickers and Milky Way ice cream family six-packs.
For over 60 years, Terminex has been making life difficult for bugs. And now, bugs are fighting back.
Operator, I need the number for Terminex. Hello?
Doing whatever they can to make it harder for you to get to us.
Do you have a listing for T-E-R? Oh, shoot.
After all, Terminex is the leader in pest control. We're trained to treat any pest problem properly and effectively, and bugs don't like it.
Operator, I think my line is bugged.
Call us. Nobody bugs bugs like Terminex.
Pope John Paul in Kingston, Jamaica, makes an appeal to overcome what he calls the horrors of its colonial past and unite with its neighbors to face the future. The Pope goes next to Mexico, then to Denver Thursday for World Youth Day. Pollsters have been busy finding out what people are saying about such issues as abortion, birth control, and ordination of women. ABC's Richard Davies reports some polls point to a gap between the teachings of the Roman Catholic Church and the views of young people. Some are still in concert, though, with the Church.
Several new opinion polls say many, if not most, young American Catholics don't agree with the Church's teachings on abortion, birth control, and the ordination of women. But one young devout Catholic, Tricia Trausch from Manhattan, Kansas, who's here for the Pope's visit, says most of the Church's critics haven't read its teachings.
If they haven't done that, I suggest that they do that and inform themselves as to what the teaching really is and the rationale behind it, because there are a lot of misconceptions about the Catholic Church.
But critics say the Church is out of step with most young Americans. Richard Davies, ABC News, Denver.
Bosnian Serb leader Radovan Karadzic says a single NATO airstrike against his army will touch off what he called a new, broader war and doom peace talks with the Muslims. On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrials are down 7.82 at 3568.26. Volume 156,200,000 shares. The trading is heavy. This is ABC News.
LensCrafters is the place to go for comfortable eyeglasses in about an hour. It's also the place to go for a wide range of prices that stretch from here to here and everything in between. LensCrafters' wide selection of comfortable frames starts at under $50. And if you should happen to find a lower price, LensCrafters will match it. Guaranteed. See store for details.
For the ABC Information Network, I'm Gary Nunn.
When you're hungry, Western Steer can tame your appetite, and coming soon at feeding time, you'll be able to enjoy the weekday Blue Plate Special. At Western Steer, that's 2 meats, 2 vegetables, and the full bakery for only $2.99. The Blue Plate Special for only $2.99, weekdays till 2, served straight from the kitchen. Of course, you can still feed on the big buffet or select from the menu of choice steaks or other fine food. No matter the size of your appetite, we'll fill it at Western Steer, Berkeley Boulevard across from Sears, Goldsboro.
Well, high pressure should give most of us lots of sunshine and below normal temperatures again this afternoon. Then more humid air begins to return to the area tomorrow. Our forecast for this afternoon, mostly sunny and rather pleasant out, the high ranging 83 to 87. Then for tonight, partly cloudy, some patchy morning fog possible, lows dropping to about 64 to 68 degrees. And for Wednesday, partly cloudy skies with some isolated late-day thunder showers, the high again in the mid-80s. At the Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Mike Moss.
always on the right. This is Rush Limbaugh on Goldsboro's very own WGBR. Conversationalists all across the fruited plain, you are listening to the Vein Brain. Rush Limbaugh, redefining masculinity for the 90s. This is a special edition of the Rush Limbaugh program, America Held Hostage. And now, from our studios in New York City, here is Rush Limbaugh. Thank you, Johnny Donovan. Day 203 of the Raw Deal, 1,258 days left in the Raw Deal. 1-800-282-2882 is the number. Just got a scathing note on CompuServe from some hysterical baboon upset with my opening monologue 1 hour ago, saying, so inflation's good now. And then you could just see him spewing at his computer as he reminded me that my theme song was recorded by an animal rights activist and everything else. But this is a legitimate question to have, I think, if you heard the opening monologue. Inflation is good in the bond market. You've got to understand the bond market is not excited. The bond market is not lowering rates. That's good for you. You might think. It may not really be, but it's certainly, they're not happy about it. I mean, they're lowering rates because nobody's borrowing money. They're trying to get money easier to get hold of. There's no inflation, and interest rates are a function, for the most part, of inflation. There are exceptions to that, but for the most part, it's a general rule. And what's good news for the bond market is bad news generally everywhere else, and vice versa. So the bond market loves high interest rates. And so yes, interest rates, high interest rates, and inflation is good for the bond market. All right, now, those of you who are on hold and who have been for a while, I want to beg your patience a little longer. I referenced yesterday on the top of the hour, the first hour of the program, that there was an amazing story on the front page of the New York Times about the failures of the socialist models in Europe that Bill Clinton is attempting to replicate here in the United States. I didn't spend any time on it yesterday because I was more intent on going through the details of stories having to do with all of the hidden taxes in the middle class that the press, miraculously discovered after the deal had been signed, or passed. And the point there was that, of course, just like during the campaign, they knew what Clinton was all about and when he was telling the truth and when he wasn't during the campaign, but they neglected to report it and instead chose to act surprised and dumbfounded after he was inaugurated at the lack of honesty that we get from him on a day-to-day basis. And so it is with the little hidden secrets in the tax code. They knew those. The bill was the bill. I mean, all you do is some reporting, you find out what's in it. But that they save the details for their stories till after the bill's been passed. So I thought I would focus on that yesterday. I want to go back, however, to the story which was headlined, Europe's Recession Prompts a New Look at Welfare Costs. And the reason why Europe's ahead of the scale on us, or ahead of us on the scale of social welfareism, that Clinton is admittedly using as a model. And I wanted to provide you this information simply to be able to do more than just say, hey, folks, here's what's happening. I mean, I know it's true, but I want to be as persuasive as I can, and that takes information and documentation rather than just opinion. I know that. And so I intend to divulge much of what was in this account yesterday to you. And much of it I'm just going to read directly because it speaks for itself. What is starkly clear is that the ballooning costs of social welfare programs for the disabled, the infirm, the elderly, and the unemployed in Europe are threatening Europe's basic economic future. In Spain, there is now one person receiving a social security benefit for every person working. And again, we're headed in this direction. And we have a president and an administration of people who want to do to the United States what was done some time ago in Western Europe, and it's now being shown as a miserable failure in Western Europe, and this story documents it. As a result of the welfare state, the crowning achievement of social democratic and Christian democratic governments in post-war Europe, and a model from which the Clinton administration wants to borrow, the welfare state is under unprecedented strain. While it has safeguarded Western Europe from the extremes of poverty and alienation that haunt many American cities, the system has become so costly, often adding as much as 50% to labor costs through payroll taxes, that it may be shutting Europe out of business in an increasingly competitive worldwide economy. And don't be confused when you hear adding as much as 50% to labor costs. That's not wages. That's the cost of benefits. That's the cost of benefits to provide for all of the social spending, the Social Security, the health insurance, and all that. So keep in mind that as you, I can't emphasize this enough, that as you hear this, this is exactly where this president wants to take the United States. It is his model. Bill Tynan, an official of Britain's Amalgamated Engineering and Electrical Union, says every time we're asked to give up a benefit, we're told that we're now in direct competition with Taiwan. The message from executives to workers is, if you don't cede on labor costs, we're going elsewhere. That's already begun to happen here, ladies and gentlemen. You think it's due to evil corporations wanting to put people out of work. That's what you've been told. You've been told for years that corporations are inherently mean and evil, and all they care about is putting... You doubt me? During the campaign, what was it that Al Gore loved to run around the country and say? That the Bush administration was virtually knocking on doors of American corporations and saying, hey, close up shop here, put these American workers out of work and open up in Mexico and we'll give you a tax break. That's what Al Gore wanted you to believe the Bush administration was doing and previous Republican administrations was doing. And it has succeeded. The propaganda that is anti-businessism has worked profoundly. Because most people are at odds and think the corporation is their enemy. And they think the reason that they do things in corporations is to hurt people. And it's just a function of the lack of education about what the purpose of business is and how it survives. Here's another example. Swiss Air has done exactly what was just referenced in the story with one of its business units. As of July 1st, Swiss Air moved part of its accounting department to Bombay, India, from Zurich, losing about 50 jobs in Switzerland, the same number which were created in India. There are highly trained people in Bombay. We're connected directly to them through our data network, and they work for a fraction of the cost of the Swiss, said a Swiss Air spokesman. We expect the savings about $5 million. What they don't have to pay in Bombay, that they are being required to pay in Switzerland, is all of the taxes that people have to pay to government to provide for all of the social welfare programs that are breaking the banks of these countries. It's not the wages. Now, we could get into a discussion of, well, hey, everything a company pays an employee is a wage, and it's the cost of employing, but it's not. That's wages defined as what you take home. It's a small chunk. And it's heading that way here. The payroll taxes, look at what happened just now with Medicare. The Medicare payroll tax has doubled, and the threshold for many people on the income level they have to pay Medicare has gone way, way up, approaching the levels of Social Security, the FICA on your paycheck. There are just increasing strains on the cost of hiring somebody. And it's not wages, it's benefits. Some of them benefits for the employee and others benefits for the population at large. Such business decisions underscore a fundamental question facing the European welfare state. Have the rapid changes in the world economy rendered Europe's system with its high wage costs and comprehensive social security benefits unsustainable? Or is a European recession simply causing serious financial problems that'll pass when recovery comes? Well, the conventional theory is that recovery is going to be a long day in coming because the recession's been caused by all this social spending that's not backed up by productivity. You got more and more people living on the dole, being supported by fewer and fewer people working. Everywhere around the world, people are living longer but retiring at the same age and expecting to be sustained somehow. And so a shrinking number of workers is being taxed at greater amounts, and it's coming here, folks. And as more and more of our population gets on drugs, turns to crime, does other things, it is not taught how to enter our markets and be productive, then those who do are going to find themselves strained even further to support the increased number of people who expect or have been told that fairness is being taken care of, or having their health care provided free, or having unemployment compensation benefits extended time immemorial, because it's simply moral. Europe's recession and soaring unemployment have certainly placed new strains on benefits. Most European social insurance programs are financed through payroll taxes on workers and employers. Hint, hint. Isn't that part of this new economic plan, increased payroll taxes? So the fewer salaried workers there are, the less money flows into Social Security benefits. But the more people out of a job, the more unemployment benefits there are to pay, so resources are dwindling as demand soars. The number of unemployed in the European community, whose economies as a whole are expected to shrink 0.5% this year, has already risen to 18.1 million, which is up 4 million just since 1991. That's the number of unemployed in the European community. And everybody says, well, we should do it what they're doing. Let's model ourselves after Japan. Let's even Perot's. Hey, we got to follow the examples of people around the world. They're outperforming us. I tell you, we ought to look and see what they're doing and make sure it doesn't happen here, is the truth. The financial impact on welfare programs in the 12-member nations of the European community has been severe. Unemployment is expected to reach 19 million next year, so it'll have gone up from 14 million to 19 million in just 4 years. But other forces are also prompting questioning of the structure of Europe's welfare states, even, as it's written here, even as President Clinton considers measures that would bring the United States closer to the European model, like a payroll tax to extend medical care to all American citizens, an increase in unemployment benefits, and a higher minimum wage. All of these things have happened during the socialist attempts in Western Europe, and they are now being blamed for the economic decline. From Sweden, for example, until recently, the paradigm of the welfare state, to Italy. With its swelling budget deficit, laws are being passed to cut the range and cut the cost of welfare programs. We've been telling you this, that they're all giving up on socialism. They're all trying to shed it, and they're all suggesting that we listen. Sweden has already adopted a measure raising the age for pension eligibility from 65 to 66 and eliminating sick pay for the first day of work missed. In Italy, the pensionable age has also been raised, and some limits have been imposed on free medical care for people with higher incomes. The German government, which has had to cope with the exceptional costs of unifying East and West, recently proposed cutting benefits for the unemployed. While people of the former East Germany have had to forsake the guaranteed employment and the cast-iron cradle-to-grave social safety net provided by the communist system, they have been largely integrated into the social security systems of the West at great cost to the Bonn government. Eastern Germans have lost their free daycare and free homes for the aged, but they still have substantial protection. In France, the conservative government that took over in March has pushed through a range of measures to control costs, like lowering retirement payments, reducing reimbursement for medical expenses, and shortening the period during which the unemployed can receive jobless benefits. Do you see us going in that direction? No, we're going in the exact opposite direction that Europe is headed, and Europe is headed in the direction they're headed because it hasn't worked, and we're heading right down the same path they have already trod. This is why we can sit here and say it ain't going to work, folks. We know. We just have to look over there. This is not opinion. This is not partisanship talk. This is fact. We can't have people working for 8 months and then receiving 15 months of unemployment benefits, as they do today, said a French official. Before, the top priority was protection for people, said Mr. Jensen, the Social Affairs Ministry official in the Netherlands. Now the priority is avoiding fraud, getting people back to work as fast as possible, and encouraging citizens to supplement national insurance with private insurance policies. What are we doing? We're going the opposite direction. Benefits programs add enormously to wage costs and tend to make industries less competitive in an economy that technology and high-speed communications have made genuinely worldwide. There's also growing evidence that the cost of benefits makes employers extremely hesitant to hire new people. Hello, healthcare. That's exactly why we're not experiencing robust employment here, because these people in business, in small business, have just been targeted, have just been told that they're going to have to give up $250 billion in taxes over the next 5 years, and they don't think they're going to have any money to expand, and they're not sure the economy is going to be expanding, so they're sitting tight. It's the same thing that is happening in Europe. In France, for instance, an employer paying the current monthly minimum wage of 4,830 francs, which is about $810 at current exchange rates, will incur total wage costs of about 8,500 francs, or $1,420 once payroll taxes for Social Security programs have been included, which means that a typical French worker is being paid the equivalent of $1,420 a month and is keeping out of that, before his income tax is deducted, $4,830. That's the cost of hiring somebody in these socialist countries, and that's the direction we're heading. And the more expensive it is to hire somebody, while you have reduced take-home pay in the process, the fewer people are going to be hired. And as the economy stagnates and doesn't grow, so the situation worsens. And it's just right across the pond, folks. And you go across the pond and go a little further east, and it really collapsed big time. And we're trying it here. All because of compassion. We care. We're nicer people. We think it'll work because we're better people. We love more, we want it more, and so forth. That's why we sit here and say it ain't going to work. We know it. We'll be back in a moment.
You're listening to the EIB Network.
Why should you buy carpet from Floor Coverings International, the carpet store at your door? Well, because there's no reason not to. From over 3,000 choices, you can select exactly the right carpet for your home in the room where it'll be installed. It's convenient, and you can make sure the color's just right. With FCI's national buying power, you get the price you want. Installations are guaranteed, and they call you back later to make sure you're happy. Now, if you won't take my word for how good they are, and you're really making a big mistake if you don't, but if you don't, ask a friend or a neighbor. You'll see why over 80% of FCI's customers have been referred by another satisfied customer. To find the FCI representative in your area, or to find out how for about $20,000 you could have your own franchise, call Floor Coverings International I have the number here. You can trust this. 800-967-3444. Again, Floor Coverings International at 1-800-967-3444. Make that call.
School's out. Report cards are in. If that report card said, get help with reading this summer, try Hooked on Phonics. Hooked on Phonics is a fun and easy way to sound out and read most of the words in the English language. So from preschool to high school. This summer, let Hooked on Phonics be your personal reading tutor. Maybe this fall, you'll be at the head of the class. Call Hooked on Phonics. 1-800-ABCDEFG.
It's midnight. Where is your car? With the club on it, you know where it is. Safe from car thieves. Car theft is a year-round problem. The police know this and urge you to help in their fight against car theft by buying and using the club. You need not be at the mercy of car thieves. For less than $60, you can protect your car with the club, the anti-theft device that's proven itself as one of the best deterrents on the market today. The club, effective, affordable, and guaranteed for up to $500 of your insurance deductible. The club, which now comes in many bright colors, fits easily across the steering wheel, and once locked in place, makes the car undrivable. Plus, its high visibility discourages would-be thieves. Even with an electronic security system, you still need the club. If you feel nervous or uneasy when you park in that lower parking garage or in a dark, secluded area at the mall or even your own street, there is an answer, a way to protect your vehicle and feel secure. The answer is the club. Available at better stores everywhere, but accept no imitations. Make sure it says the club on the handle.
The days of cars like 62 Vets and 65 Mustangs are gone forever, but the interest rates are back. There's never been a smarter time to borrow than now at First Citizens Bank, where you can win interest rate discounts on pay-any-day loans, an interest-free loan, even a new Z24 convertible in our loan game. Play now at any First Citizens Bank. No transaction necessary. Must be 18 or older. Void where prohibited. Game ends 9/3/93. Complete details at participating branches. Member FDIC. Equal housing lender.
No fever, no nausea, no fatigue, no bruises, no swelling, no stiffness, no weight loss, no vomiting, no diarrhea, no aches, no pain, no nothing. A stubbed toe hurts more than high blood pressure. That is, until high blood pressure puts you in a wheelchair or in the ground. It's the leading cause of strokes, so although it has no symptoms, it certainly should give you chills. What are you doing about your blood pressure? A message from the National High Blood Pressure Education Program.
Remaining moments of this sterling half hour of broadcast excellence. I wish to give you even more data. Now, let's pick up where I left off. In France, it costs an employer about $1,420 to pay somebody $810. That's the way to look at this. It costs them $1,420 to pay them $810. Those benefits go to support other people in the society. Now, in Germany, the average manufacturing worker costs an employer $26.89 an hour. 46% of that is for social benefits. $26.89 an hour, in essence, to pay somebody about half that, $14. Now, at the present time in the United States, the average hourly pay of an American worker is $15.89, about 28% of the wage, which are devoted to benefits. But this is where we have an opportunity to stop the direction we're headed, but we're not. We're not stopping the direction. We are heading straight down a path that the Europeans have previously trod, as I have stated, and we know where they are, and we're heading in that direction. There are several people who tried to stop this, but it's too late. The plan passed. The only thing now is for the plan to fail, which it will. I mean, it doesn't work. The whole theory on which the Clinton economic revival is based has been shown not to work anywhere. It has never, ever worked. And I make this point repeatedly only to stay credible with you. I don't do this from the stage of partisanship. I don't do this from the stage of Clinton bashing, as so many. I come to you because I'm right, because I have facts. Today I have demonstrated the facts in hopes of persuading you. He says, Rush, why are you trying to persuade us now? It's too late. No. You got to remain in good cheer, and this is ultimately good. This may be the death knell for all of these types for a long time. I'm not so confident because, after all, Jimmy Carter was pretty bad, and we've still elected somebody like him. So memories can be short. But I wasn't on radio then, and I am now. We'll see.
This is Kevin Trudeau, founder of the American Memory Institute. Imagine having a virtual photographic memory and being able to meet over 100 people and remember all their names. Or have instant recall of everything you see, hear, or even think about. Over 2 million people have already benefited from the Mega Memory Home Study course and released their own instant recall memory. Now it's your turn. Call 1-800-327-MEGA. That's 1-800-327-MEGA.
This is WGBR News, Goldsboro's very own.
This is Wayne Alley reporting WGBR News. The Goldsboro City Council accepted for information last night a classification and pay plan that would cost the city $179,000 if adopted. The council heard recommendations that the proposed job classifications become effective at the next council meeting and that city employees recommended for a 2.5% pay increase get that in January in the first pay period. That 2.5% would bring those employees up to reflect market pay. The study was done and the results presented by Municipal Advisors Incorporated, who worked under contract to the North Carolina League of Municipalities. The position classification pay plan looked at all grades and steps, and not everybody in the city's employ was recommended for an increase. There were certain categories of employees not recommended for a pay increase. The survey showed that of the 421 city employees surveyed, the salaries of 106 of those were found to be in line and not subject to a pay increase. The recommendations were the result of a 4-month study. In other news today, if Wayne County schools wait until the county provides enough money through the half-cent sales tax to meet new school construction needs, the schools will have a long wait. That's according to Superintendent Darren Flowers, who reminded the school's Community Advisory Council last night that the 1993 General Assembly extended the half-cent sales tax for public school construction instead of including those schools in a statewide bond issue. But Flowers said most of that money is being used to retire county school construction bonds, and there will not be a large influx of money for new construction.
The other recourses are to find other sources of revenue through the county to provide for these needs, for the state to assume responsibilities through either a state bond issue or other sources of funding, or for us to consider at a later date a bond issue for the construction of facilities.
Wayne School Superintendent Darren Flowers. And at last night's meeting, Flowers told the council that the Henson Street Alternative School will continue in the fall term, serving students who, for one reason or another, have been given long-term suspension and have been excluded from the regular school. The new alternative school in the former Belfast School will provide a different program. Stay tuned for the latest Weather Center forecast. Reporting for WGBR News, I'm Wayne Alley.
A return of more humid, unstable air to the region on Wednesday may combine with a weak upper-level disturbance passing by to bring some chance of showers back to the area. The forecast for this afternoon, mostly sunny and pleasant, highs ranging about 83 to 87 degrees. Then tonight, partly cloudy, some patchy morning fog possible, below 64 to 68. And on Wednesday, we'll look for partly cloudy skies with some isolated late-day thunder showers. Highs Wednesday again in the mid-80s. I'm Mike Moss at the Weather Center.
Now, more of the Rush Limbaugh Show on 1150 WGBR. Greetings, my good friends. Rush Limbaugh from the prestigious Attila the Hun Chair of the Limbaugh Institute for Advanced Conservative Studies. There's also a letter to Bill Clinton, an open letter to Bill Clinton that ran today in the Washington Times, and it's been publicized in a number of other places, from California Governor Pete Wilson. In essence, the purpose of the letter is an appeal to the president to do something right now about the illegal immigration problem facing California. There is absolutely no way that this administration can promise and then guarantee the creation of 2 million new jobs in the next 4 years in California, as they've done, unless they get a handle on the illegal immigration out there. It is unique to the nation, the problem which exists in California, and the problem is compounded by federal mandates as to how illegal immigrants are to be treated. In other words, they are to be given health care benefits, they are to be given immediate emergency medical services, but they mandate that the state pay for it. So the taxpayers of California, not the entire United States, but only of California, have to foot the bill for whatever costs are incurred by illegal immigrants, and they are many. I mean, and they're coming across the border in record numbers. And it is one of the primary deterrents to any real economic recovery in California. And the pressures that are being brought to bear is that the socialist welfare state orientation says, well, let's take care of them. The orientation of the administration and others of that particular ideological stripes, well, these people, we want to help these people, they're suffering and they're hurting, which is all fine. I mean, the hearts are big, the intentions may be honorable, but they cannot afford it. The country simply cannot afford the social burdens that is agreed to accept now for its citizens, much less being saddled with more social burdens for people who are not citizens, who are entering here illegally. And the governor of California is asking for some direct help from Washington immediately for some assistance on it. And I don't know what would be forthcoming, if anything. But if nothing else, the letter from Governor Wilson to President Clinton serves to finally highlight the problem. I remember it was back in April, I believe, the governor was in town and called and we had breakfast, and he gave me a number of horror stories that I'm not going to repeat here, but a number of horror stories about the circumstances which exist primarily in Southern California as a result of some of the illegal immigration. What concerned him most was that Washington is requiring all these benefits be extended and that the state pay for it. So California is really being saddled with a tremendous number of burdens. They're suffering most of the base closures, most of the defense cuts have hit California, and a lot of it is happening in states other than California, but a lot of it is, I think a disproportionate amount of it is occurring in California. So the economic side, and they're cutting their budgets left and right out there. They've tried raising taxes. Talked to Governor Wilson about that. They've tried raising taxes through the roof, and their deficits just expanded.
Then you've got the Speaker of the Assembly out there, Willie Brown, whose first and foremost objective is to defeat Republicans at any hand, especially Pete Wilson, and then he'll fix the problems when Democrats are in charge. The problem is a Democratic way of fixing problems doesn't fix problems, it only makes them worse. And as evidenced by this current administration. So, I don't know. I don't know if that letter's been published. I'm sure it has in California, a lot of places, but I don't know if it's anywhere. The Washington Times, I know it has been published. Did they fax that up to us? I requested a copy of that this morning, and it just reminded me I hadn't got it. Let's go back to the phones. We'll go to Athens, Georgia. Philip, hello. Welcome to the Rush Limbaugh program.
Thanks a lot, Rush. Megadidos from Athens, Georgia.
Thank you, sir.
Never called any program for any reason, but I think you're the Barry Bonds of business every time you tie in nation's confidence in Clinton and his tax plan to the low interest rates we have right now. You know, as you've said already, interest rates are directly affected by the demand for money across the United States. Right now, consumers are worried about higher taxes, future employment, less income, and especially less discretionary income. So they don't need money to buy houses, cars, TVs, washing machines.
Well, they're afraid. They may need it. They're just afraid to incur the debt.
That's right.
Look at what people are doing. They're making a big ballyhoo about all this refinancing going on. All people are doing. People are not idiots. This is one thing that Democrats are never going to understand. People are trying to simply get out from underneath the mountain of debt they've already incurred. They're shortening the period of time they're in debt, but they're not reducing their monthly payments.
That's right. And add to that the fact that businesses know this. They know they don't need to borrow to increase property, plant, equipment. They don't need to borrow to increase revenues because there's less demand for their products right now. So growth stalled, revenue stalled. And you add to that the uncertainty about the impending change in health care and the unemployment benefits. And they don't know who's going to pay for it, so they're not going to be hiring until they figure that out as well.
Well, exactly. And I would only say this in addendum. And that is, if you believe, ladies and gentlemen, the key to economic growth is low interest rates, then you have got to go back to school. That's what this administration has got. Everything's riding on these interest rates staying low, and I would suggest these interest rates have been coming down for 24 months, and they have been plummeting the last 6 months. If the interest rate theory were true, there would be robust economic activity going on left and right, and it isn't happening. I also want to address this. Somebody called the other day, we had a chance to answer this. Hey, Rush, if this plan is so bad, how come big business supports it so much? How come they're all gathering outside the White House and say, we're for it? Good question. Glad you asked. There's one group of people not hurt whatsoever by this deal. It's big business. Their tax rate goes up 1%. Big deal. Their competitors, small business, have been socked. And as small business doesn't grow, they are less competition for big corporations. Don't think that, I'll tell you, in the world of business, you know what the objective is put the other guy out of business. I mean, that's your objective. Put them out of business. Run them out of business. And this plan is very favorable to big business. And that's not where most of the hiring happens. Hey, look at what big business is doing. IBM, bye-bye hundreds of thousands. Eastman Kodak, say hello, goodbye, hundreds of thousands. Do you hear about massive layoffs in small business? Why do you never hear about massive business? Because there aren't. They hire less than, small business, companies that hire less than 30 people or have less than 30 employees make up 75 or 80% of the jobs in this country. And as they're not able to expand, and apparently these low interest rates are not enticing them to, I'm sorry to chuckle, but I had to try this. This is news just out today. Labor Department reports productivity of U.S. workers took its biggest tumble in 4 years during the second quarter, as hours worked by employees rose faster than output. Productivity measures how much a U.S. worker is producing by the hour and acts as a gauge of corporate efficiency, and it fell 2.5% in the non-farm business sector of the economy during April through June. the largest quarterly fall since a 3.9% drop during the first 3 months of 1989. Productivity is down. I mean, the signs that there is and the administration, Laura DeAngelis Tyson, on Sunday very quietly whispered, by the way, you know what, we don't think the economy is going to grow as fast as we thought, Jan. We're going to lower our projection of growth again. And they did, but it was whispered. These low interest rates are really spurring growth. And it's really causing people to go out there and take on new challenges. Where is all this small business expansion that's supposed to result from these low interest rates? Where's all this consumer spending that's supposed to result from people having $100 a week more in their pockets? Back in just a moment.
You're listening to the EIB Network.